Alright guys, welcome back to the show. For those of you who don't know, my name is Paul. I'm the owner of Mr. Post Frame. Today, Sunday, I'm going to install an in-floor radiant heat system for my sister and brother-in-law. It's a 1,200 square foot, 30 by 40 shop, garage, and I'm doing this. This system I got from Radiant Tech, and I'm just going to show you what it is here, and then I'm going to take you through how to install it, the cost, all that kind of good things, what I think of it. It's got an electric boiler, but anyway, here's kind of what comes in the package. It's got your manifolds made up, pressure tested. It's got your air separator, pressure gauge, relief valve, pump. That's your pump goes in the middle here. Comes with your pump, the controls, expansion tank, fittings. Comes with all the different instructions for the controls, all that kind of good stuff. So, and here's the little mini boiler I got. So we're gonna get going and go get this installed. All right, so step one is this is the return and supply manifold. They just hook it all together so you can pressure test it. I'm gonna cut these apart, get all my hoses hooked up. That's step one. All right, you can see we got our supply manifold, return manifold all mounted. I've got my pump lined up. Come up here, we got a fill valve, drain valve, air separator. Air separator needs to be at the top of your system because air rises, pressure gauge, and relief valve. So now we're going to put a concrete sensor in the floor over here. So it'll be behind the wall, and then we'll mount our boiler and all the electronic stuff. All right, we got our little electric boiler mounted, relief valve, that will connect to here. In between we'll have an expansion tank. Got a controller mounted, thermostat's gonna be right there. Now we just have to pipe in our return back over to the bottom. All right, we have all the piping done. It's just a one zone system for a 30 by 40. You got it pressurized. We're just gonna see if that holds while we do all the electrical. I think we're gonna be good, but we'll see here. All right, guys, we're here at 30 by 40. There's the in-floor heat system. It's just a single zone 4-loop system. Got a little mini electric boiler. I'm getting ready to fill it with glycol. So what I have here is a bucket with a pump. I got a washing machine hose hooked up to the top. It's going to pump it up, pump it into here. This valve is closed, and then I'm going to pump it through the system. I just have one loop open, so we'll do one loop first. It'll go up through the boiler, back around, and then it will come back out here, return to the bucket. And I'll keep that going until all the bubbles are gone, and then we'll work the other loops. We'll close that loop off, prime the next one, so on and so forth, and then keep the whole system going to get all the air off of it. Got it all wired up. Just while I'm filling it, I'm going to finish up a couple connections I got here, and then we'll power this thing up and get it going. So you can see I got this going, and as long as bubbles are coming up, I'm going to keep it going in this loop until there's no more bubbles, and then we'll switch to another one. All right, guys, well, it's kind of dark, so we're back here. I have this system all finished, so I'm just gonna go through it with you. It's a really simple, small system. Like I said, this is for a 1,200 square foot garage, 30 by 40. I think this is definitely something a DIYer could do. That's my opinion. If you got a little bit of skills, you can do this. So I'm just gonna go through this system for you. So this particular, on a building this small, a little electric boiler works really, really good. This is a Electro Industries mini boiler. I think it's the biggest one they have, I think. Made in the US, which is kind of cool, so they say. So we got the boiler, electric boiler. Nice thing about this, if you're installing it in a small space, you don't have to have a vent, so you don't have to cut holes to vent. You don't have to have gas hookup. So that really simplifies this part of it. We got a pressure relief here, which is set at 30. That's to protect the boiler. Come across here, so the fluid's pumping this way. There's no pump in this. This is a one-zone system, so it's just a one-loop system. So there's only one pump, one zone pump, which is right there. But out of the boiler, we have pressure relief, come across. And this is all 3/4 inch piping. For this size system, that's all you need. We have our expansion tank, which is off. You want that off the heating side of the boiler. So we got our expansion tank. Then we have another relief valve that's set at 30 PSI. Then we have our pressure gauge. This system runs between, roughly 12 and 18 PSI, which is kind of pretty common. And then we have our air eliminator. This is a Watts air eliminator. These are pretty good. And what this does is it removes any air from the system that is created or that you didn't get removed. This is very important. One thing radiant heat systems don't like is air in the system. They don't work very well when there's air in it. So this removes air, and you want that at the highest point of your piping, which obviously this is. Then we have a fill valve. We have a ball valve so that when we're filling this, we can close this and force the fluid around. This is the drain valve. And then we come here. This is, obviously I have a drain valve upside down so that I can get water out of this if I ever needed to. And then we have our pump, which in this case is a Grundfos pump. And we have isolation valves on both sides. So if you ever have to do maintenance or remove this, we have a shutoff on the top and bottom so that we don't get air in the system when we're removing this. So got to have shutoff valves on both sides. Then we have our supply manifold. So this is a 4-loop system. So those are 4 supplies, and then the 4 returns are right here. So the water or glycol gets pumped, goes through these, returns here, and then goes over and returns to the boiler. I have a drain valve down here, just if we ever wanted to drain off the boiler in the system. It's at the lowest point here, so we can do that pretty easily. As far as the controls, we have an iLink zone controller. This is an SP81, so it's a 1-zone controller. We have our in-floor heat thermostat, and then we have a thermostat that I have wires on both where it enters the zone and then where it returns. And what this does is it tells me this is what the temperature is going out to the floor, and this is what the fluid is returning at this current point. This thermostat, you can control the heat based off the floor temperature, the room air and the floor temperature combined, or just the air. I run all of our systems just off the floor sensor. That way when the garage doors come open, it doesn't kick the system on unless it absolutely needs to. So you got the room temperature right here, you have what the floor temperature is set at, and then you have what the floor temperature is actually at. So you can see it's at 63.5, and the system's set at 68. As far as electrical goes on this, we have a 20 amp breaker, comes over to a switch, so we can turn this off if we need to. So that just powers up the system for all the controls. And then this boiler has a built-in 60 amp breaker, but it also has 220. It has a 220 service coming into it from the main panel. So those are number 4 or number 6 wire that you'd have to have for this. It comes in to power the actual boiler. So if the thermostat calls for heat, sends a signal to your controller, which sends a signal to your boiler to turn on. So you can see we're calling for heat right now. So the thermostat light is lit up, saying it's calling, and then that means that the boiler is actually running. My sister and brother-in-law wanted glycol on this because they weren't sure if they would always keep it on. So this is a 50-50 mix. So we just filled the system with this, and it's typically for a 1/2 inch, 300 foot run. So 1/2 inch packs at 300 feet is roughly just under 3 gallons. So it's about 1 gallon per 100 feet is what you can figure. I think this is about $130 a bucket. We bought 3, so you can do the math. Water obviously heats better, moves better, but if you want to shut the system off or you lose power, you don't have to worry about this freezing. This is a garage, so we just have the reliefs coming out here if it was ever to go over pressure. I mean, I know you're supposed to have them to a drain. There's a drain in the floor right there, but they didn't want hoses going over there, which I wouldn't either. And it's not going to ruin anything in here in this garage anyway if it does ever drip a little water out. Like I said, a couple nice things about an electrical system is there's no condensation created by the boiler, and you don't have to have gas or vents out of the building. So the price of this, we're going to put on the screen right now. We'll break it down for you. I think we did a cost video on this very building, which we'll leave a link in the description for that video, which we cover all the insulation, vapor barrier, the oxygen barrier pipe for the system. So hopefully that's helpful to somebody. Like I said, this is a pretty easy DIY. This system actually came from Radiant Tech. It was the first time I've ever used Radiant Tech. And for a small system like this, I feel like it worked really well. I did use their, get another system from them, which we'll cover in another video. But that's it. It's pretty simple. Went pretty well. Took me about a day to do this, but I think it turned out real nice. All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. As far as how much does this cost to run, that's going to vary obviously on what your electric in your area cost. I'm sure my sister and brother-in-law will let me know what this costs to run this for a month. Maybe I can do an update on stories or a short to let you guys know that. They're going to keep this at least 65 degrees. So maybe in a month I'll come back, see what their bill was, what it went up by, and we can let you know that. But as always, we appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we will catch you on the next video.